We're live. Sorry. Hi, Soham. Welcome to Venture with Grace.
Hey Grace, this is awesome. Super excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have another, UFI alumni to be on our show. And maybe we could start with your background. Your background is super impressive. You're the co-founder of Rubrik, and now you co-founded your uh well, I think this is the third company, right? Because previous to that, you had a company that you sold to Facebook, and then you started Rubrik, which is like a public company now, and then the successful co-founding alumni, including the founder of Glean and other people who are like, oh, like great founders, and now you started with some AI. Maybe we could talk about like what were some core lessons that you've learned early on in your career, kind of shape you into who you are today.
Yeah, uh, yeah, you're right. This is like innings number three. They were all like very, very different. Like very different spaces, very different kinds of startups. So,
Yeah.
um, you know, there are some learnings, and there are like things that I had to unlearn
Mhm.
along the way as well. My first startup, I actually was an engineer at like Google for about 6 years. I started very early, around the time of the Google IPO. But my first startup was like a great lesson in customers don't just come to your product just because you built it. That was like one of my, when in Google, it's very easy to rack up hundreds of millions of customers trying to use your product because they kind of get free product placement as a little link on the Google page. But that simply does not happen in a startup. So the first one was like my first time understanding just how hard it is to get customers, and learned a lot about I was trying to sell something in the local business space,
Mhm.
and just like how to scale a business there. It's very hard, very different from how you would do consumer or how you would do uh, B2B. So there was a little bit of a founder market fit issue that I also discovered. um, the next one, which was much more exciting, was Rubrik. I think that's the been like the highlight of my career. I think again, uh, I mean, the great thing about Rubrik, and you mentioned it in some ways, was the team that we were able to build.
Mhm.
Incredibly high caliber folks across the board. And in fact, one of the things that has happened from Rubrik has been that there are a whole bunch of new entrepreneurs who have come about. Glean being one, there's WisdomAI, obviously, and there are like about 8 or 9 others who are all doing quite well. So again, like incredibly high talent density. We went after a very, particular angle in terms of particular end of the enterprise that we were trying to service. It was like not the, shiny, sexy AI kind of enterprise. It was much about how do you protect people's data. It sounds kind of boring, but what is really cool is that it is one of the only stories that I have been able to tell my parents, and they just immediately got it, right? So it's one of those things that you can very easily grasp, and learned a lot about like how do you build a large team, how do you go to market, how do you hire, how do you get great talent.
Mhm.
A lot of different learnings, which I think most learnings I would be what say that what kind of like translated really well when I was starting Wisdom AI, just to realize that the quality of the founding team makes a huge, huge, huge impact in terms of what you'll be able to do downstream. So that's probably the most consistent learning that I have been able to carry through.
I wonder, so like I think the first learning is like super crucial, like because like I think especially coming from an engineering background, like I think people are very tend to gravitate towards like let's just build something like with our existing technology just for the sake of like building stuff.
Mm.
But I think like to sell to like customer, it's like a completely different stack of
Yeah,
skill, not
yeah,
like mindset switch. When it comes to like building a team at like Rubrik back then, like how do you guys kind of like ensemble the team? And I guess like also like yeah, like how do you kind of like what do you think make it so successful that I already IPO'd? And I have so many questions for you as like, if I co-founded a company and it IPO'd, I'm not saying I will be like sitting in Florida like sipping margarita or anything, but I think I would consider like doing investing or like wrapping up stuff. Like what motivates you to like start a second company or third company technically?
Uh, yeah, I think okay. So on Rubrik and getting a great team together. So I give a lot of credit to like our CEO, my co-founder, Bipul Sinha. You should kind of hear him talk sometimes. He talks about like maximal thinking, which
Mhm.
is really about how do you build a team where everybody does their best work, nobody feels constrained. You
Mhm.
you know you imagine the impossible, and you're always kind of chasing for it.
Mhm.
That was the early culture of Rubrik, and that was just very, very, very stimulating for all the folks who came on board. And that's something that like is really attractive to people as well, right? Have a culture which is really high achievement oriented, no artificial limits. You go as far as you can go. I think that is something that I feel every great company needs to truly be successful. In terms of like my own personal journey, like look, I am a builder at heart. Like I started off as at at Google. I'm a tinkerer. I love to just keep uh, doing things. Now the challenge is that when the first time I moved away from Google, it turned into something that I would just best describe as a toy project. There was no real reason why it should have turned into a business. I have learned since then, but this basic passion for building has always remained, right? So if not build, I wouldn't really know what to do. So that was one aspect of it. And like honestly, timing matters a lot, right? I mean, I think we live in this like, you know, I don't know. In my entire career, like I have never experienced a moment like this where you can just see the world change in front of you, or like the potential is just like so ridiculous that as a builder, like there is just it's almost like a
Mhm.
siren calling that you have to go and build and do something new, and this does not happen easily. And I think that was something that was certainly what drew me into this, just the opportunity space that AI had opened up.
I wonder, maybe we could start talking about like Wisdom AI because
Hmm.
it is kind of like the next generation BI tool. Like, or, I wonder how do you define, I guess, like, getting insights from your own company and um, how is it like different than like last generation of, I guess, like business intelligence or like however you design
Yeah.
it?
Okay, so we are like trying our best to not use the word business intelligence, but since you have mentioned it, let's go along with it.
Mhm.
So we are kind of calling ourselves as the AI data analyst, and what that
Mhm.
means is that we empower data teams in
Mhm.
enterprises to train, like think of it as a digital twin, like a AI data analyst, which is again fully grounded in the specifics of the data, in the specific nuances of the business, and then allows you to get insights from the data, right? So that's kind of what we're doing.
Mhm.
In terms of like the kinds of things that you do, and like a lot of the like this will kind of like tell you how we are different from what it used to be.
Mhm.
So imagine like a CEO. The CEO's question is, okay, how am I going to do great in this like upcoming quarter?
Mhm.
Or like a chief marketing officer is thinking, how should I be allocating my like big marketing spend?
Mhm.
There are like these fairly meaty questions that require answering if you're running your business.
Mhm.
Uh, and turns out to get to this answer is a very it's a complex question. It requires
Soham, I think something is blocking your microphone.
really.
Yeah, wait. So I think I hear the sounds that are kind of
How
like,
about that? How about now?
oh, now it's perfect. Yeah.
Okay. I think I was like moving my hand around my laptop. That's probably what happened. I'll be better.
Thank you.
Um, yeah. So we're building the AI data analyst. It's going to be
Mhm.
100% grounded in your business data. Our ultimate goal, and this will tell you why it's different from how it's been done so far, is that we are here to empower the business leader or the operator who is making day-to-day decisions.
Mhm.
So this is not like a trained data analyst. This is about everybody else. It could very well be the CEO wanting to plan out their quarter, or like somebody trying to optimize their marketing spend. These are business professional, business users. These are not data scientists, data analysts. So how do you empower the operators to make decisions? That's the overall goal that we're trying to go for. And this requires a few things. First of all, again, every business has tremendous amount of nuance, and in some ways the data analyst is the one who knows how to wrangle the data, knows how to wrangle the low level nitty-gritties of how to extract information from all the data that they kind of work with. So essentially the goal is, how do you make AI do all of this work in a manner that you can fully trust, right? So unlike like other things, like you go to chat gpt, you ask a question, doesn't matter how accurate the answer is, or you can more or less evaluate what's going on. You don't like it, you ask another prompt, you kind of fine tune it. But here, like when you're asking about, optimize my campaign, there is really no room for hallucination. So again, how do you solve this problem through which you would make day-to-day decisions
Mhm.
to be done by non-technical folks with insane levels of trust and accuracy? So that's the problem that we're trying to solve. And if you can do this, this is pretty much the holy grail. It's just that the previous generation technologies have always been about empowering analysts to do the work and prepare reports, and those reports would be what the other folks would consume. So we're completely doing a paradigm shift. Instead of like folks preparing reports, we are essentially giving direct access to questions, direct access to answers. So that's the paradigm shift that we're going after.
Hmm. I wonder, so like I guess like how does the I wouldn't say how this backend works, but like I guess like in the past version of uh analytics for different companies, how was it processed in the past? Like I know that like there is like I know that you guys kind of help um people process like their financial data and
Yeah.
everything. It's like
Oh, great question. I think this I didn't answer your question, the last question properly. So the previous version was, there are folks who are trained analysts
mhm,
who had tools that allowed them to create reports. Reports would be like, imagine 3 or 4 charts put
mhm,
together. So when you get a question about how to optimize my campaigns, somebody would crunch the numbers. A week later, they would come back and say, here is this like dashboard. And through this dashboard, we'll tell you what we think you should know.
mhm,
And then when you have a new question that is not kind of answered there already, you're essentially stuck. And then you'll get the new answer another week later. So that was the status quo. What we are essentially saying is that this gap of like taking 7 days to get an answer is something that we want to eliminate and we want to optimize for. And this is where, again, like if there is an AI, like digital data analyst who is trained to do the analysis, really understands how the litigation nuances exists, then you can like reduce this time to answer to a matter of like seconds or minutes, as
mhm,
opposed to like days, which is the current status quo.
mhm,
And this whole opportunity to train AI to understand your data was simply non-existent 2 years back.
mhm,
And hence the previous generation of technologies were built the way they were.
mhm.
So that's the big technology shift that we are capitalizing on.
I wonder, so like when it comes to like analyzing the data, I guess like maybe if from the business perspective, like how much of the money are currently spending on this particular, I guess like I don't know if it's like on the under the forecasting or just
Hmm.
business operation, and like I guess like what does the go-to market kind of look like? Is that like, you chat with the COO and they'd be like, hey, or like the CFO, um yeah.
Question. So first things first, we are definitely targeting enterprises. So we do speak with CFOs, CEOs, lots of CXOs.
Mhm,
Uh, the great news is that every one of them like immediately loves our product. Again, I'm obviously a little bit biased here. Maybe
mhm,
don't love it as much, but I feel like they do because they can connect with it. Because me as a business leader myself in the past, I have always needed insights from data, and it's hard and it takes a long time. So if
mhm,
you say I'm going to get instant answers, that's a big deal. And I'm going to get instant answers. It's going to be proactive. It's
mhm,
doing work behind the scenes. Every Monday morning, I know exactly what I should be looking at. This is magical, right? This is great. Uh, However, the interesting dynamic here is the next question after feeling the magic is, can I trust this answer? Like I'm going to make a big business decision based on this. Is this reliable? And like, previously there was this person I used to, you know, talk to, and I used to kind of fully trust them. Now I'm trusting this AI. How do I believe that this is correct? So inevitably, then our conversation shifts to working with the data team, because ultimately they are the guardians of
Mhm.
all the, you know, they have all the tribal knowledge, they have all the low level knowledge. So
Mhm.
we inevitably have to get the data team super excited about becoming like the AI model builders.
Mhm.
So they are basically they are training the AI, they are maintaining the AI, they are responsible for the upkeep of it. So how do we give them the confidence that they have transferred their, they have trained the AI sufficiently well to end up like being their representatives in a live setting. So our go-to-market involves selling to CIOs and CDOs, because they ultimately are the decision makers for us, even though the CEOs and the CEOs get very excited.
Mhm.
Um, in terms of like, does that answer your question, Grace?
Yeah, for sure. I wonder, so like, how do you think about like the from the business perspective to like, I mean, obviously everyone wants to kind of like find all the answers from the business perspective. How do maybe we could talk about like, how does it integrate it into their own database, and then like what are some challenges? Let's say, if I use if I like just dump all my data. I mean, this is a extreme and non-technical example, but like if I just dump all my data into ChatGPT and then it kind of like I
Yeah.
asked it like, "Hey, ChatGPT, give me something," or like, the Microsoft Copilot. I just asked like, on this Excel sheet, like, give me, what's I guess like the pattern or something. Like, I guess there's like some sort of like, um, general like direction on like what I should kind of like look at my business. But how do you think about like the challenges of like these other tools too?
Perfect.
Um,
Perfect. Great,
yeah.
great question. I think again, we are a post chat GPT company, right? So it's just been 2 years in, so very much inspired by chat GPT. So what you described, that hey, I have this Excel file, or like, I have some PDF report, I uploaded it into chat GPT. Chat GPT would do some analysis and tell me where to go.
Mhm.
uh, just take this mechanism of how you can work with your own data, and think about like what would it take to make it work in the context of an organization. So first
Mhm.
things first, an organization's data itself
Mhm.
is sort of scattered all over the place, right? So there is they might be using, like, think of, like a data bricks or a data warehouse for some amounts of data. They
Mhm.
might have like some, transactional database. They have like SaaS tools where some of the other data that is kind of scattered. So it's not, it's hard to condense a business data into the form factor of a single spreadsheet. It
Mhm.
is inevitably across multiple different silos.
Mhm.
These silos don't quite speak to each other, right? So I mean, so it's like these are truly independent, disjointed silos. So in order for us to do the work we do, one of the things that we need to crack is the ability to work with these enterprise systems. So we connect directly into these enterprise systems and query them as appropriate. Um, Inevitably, enterprise systems are hugely messy. So, uh, you want every enterprise system to ultimately look like a single spreadsheet. But
Mhm.
reality is, if you looked at a single spreadsheet as one table, I'm talking about like thousands of tables that have overlaps, and there are redundancies, there are things that are deprecated, things that have different versions, um, things whose the math to do the revenue calculation exists in the head of this one person. So if they write the query, they know what to do, but then, like, good luck trying to imagine like a AI kind of understanding it. So all of this, like, fragmentation, the messiness, this is sort of what we are, the whole goal of like our onboarding any customer is connect to the data, but then sort of, like, you can call it like reverse engineer, you can call it train, like understand the mess that kind of exists, um, and then provide an interface through which you can interface with this data. So it's kind of like the same principle that you described with chat GPT, except that how do you do this at enterprise scale? And then we require a lot of reliability, like a lot of like repeatability. Like it should not happen that, a common scenario, like, we are designing this product where, let's say, hundreds and thousands of people would be asking questions. You want to make sure that each person gets, they don't understand the low level nuances at all, and yet you want them to get identical answers for the same question. So that's like another like level of work we need to do, which is about how do you make sure that you can do this in a scalable manner, where it's not each one for themselves, right? There's a lot of like commonalities between questions, and you should get two people asking about revenue should not get two different answers, because if that happens, there is a problem. So anyway, so those are like some of the challenges we need to solve.
I wonder, I guess like one of the things that I think, maybe if you want to share, showcase our like a demo or something, we can actually click present if you want to share a demo.
Oh gosh, really? Okay.
Not prepared.
I did not know that happened in a live stream. Wait, where did I?
Present or invite. So it's kind of like a Zoom-ish function.
Okay, this thing, the plus button.
Yeah.
Okay. Share screen. Share screen. Okay. Okay, give me a second to. Okay, I'll stay here, but give me a second to.
Do you want me to add to stage, or do you want to open like
No,
a
no.
new app?
Can you see something right now?
I see. I see a good afternoon.
You can see good afternoon. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think this is your email. Is this your email or this is the dashboard?
Yeah, this is like this is the landing page. It looks a bit like ChatGPT. The
Yeah.
weird part is that it's kind of connected to the difference, of course, with ChatGPT is that I'm connected to all of these enterprise sources.
Yeah.
Right?
Hi. Yeah.
We can do a whole bunch of things. And in a basic form, what you can do is you can ask questions of it.
Can I add to stage?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, here. Yeah. Oh, by the way, hi, Edward. So Edward said nice insight, and like a compliment, basically, the audience.
Oh, okay. So I'll go like super quick because I'm always like a little bit worried about unrehearsed demos on live stream. Yeah, so let's look at this, right? So the basic product, right?
Mhm.
You can start here. Looks very much like ChatGPT. Obviously, the difference is that we are connected to all of these different enterprise sources, and we can in fact like connect to multiple of them all at once and kind of mix and match.
Mhm.
The basic, the very basic thing what you would do here is that you'll ask questions, get answers. So let's just see what's here. So this is like a basic sales finance data set. You can ask about revenue, you can ask about conversion rate, win rate, all sorts of things. So let me just start with like one basic question. Show me revenue trajectory quarterly, and only keep the items bigger than 10,000. Okay.
Wow, love that.
There. Let's close this. Okay, Grace, you didn't tell me about a live demo, but
I know. Sorry, I feel like you did such a great like live demo
yeah.
so at our conference. So it's like you're prepared.
Yeah. So in a basic form, what you can do with the product is you ask a question and you get answers, right?
Mhm.
Where it gets interesting is that you can, by the way, these like little dots here allow you to further edit the answer if you wanted. But the next thing that you could do here is to say, I see a peak in Q4 2024. Can I do a deep dive into it? All right. So now I'll turn on our deep analysis. Let's see what happens. So again, you see the difference here, right? The first question was like a very clear-cut question. Like I asked for a very specific number, it did some analysis. The second one is a little bit more complex because it's like, this is like not a easy question to answer, because I want to help it explain to me why there is a peak in 2024. So it'll kind of come up with a plan, and then I'll like say, okay, let's start off like this agentic exploration, and it'll now kick off like this multi-pronged analysis to figure out an answer for me. This will take some time, so I'll not like spend too much time here. Uh, Behind the scenes, the data is, it's coming from BigQuery, which is kind of like like a data warehouse where you can put a lot of your data. So there is like a lot of like complexity in the data itself, which we are kind of utilizing to answer some of these questions accurately. But in a very, in a the ultimate goal is that this section about like how the data is laid out this is behind the scenes. This is not something that folks are supposed to see. The main final output is which is like this interface through which you can get your answers and so on. And this is doing like a very long exploration, and it'll take a while to kind of complete the whole analysis and come back with a point of view, including like exec summary, key findings. What are some places where we should be digging deeper into? Are there some anomalies? So like a whole bunch of like analysis into my quarter has been done, and all I needed to do was to just speak at it, and it just did it, right? And this would easily be like a few weeks of work to come back with something, and I can just keep going. I can ask for further drill downs, all of that. So that's a very basic version of what happens in the product. There are other things. We have. You can like share this information. You can. You can prepare dashboards. You can schedule these. We have the ability to do work behind the scenes. This is like a new feature we launched around proactive agents, where you can just say, like I'll show you my proactive agent. This is like my daily monitoring agent through which I try to monitor our product performance. So look at like, overall usage and tickets that are being created. And then if there is like ever a drop in the overall usage, then give me like a notification. And then don't just give me a notification, do some advanced analysis for me as well, right? So essentially help me narrow down into where I need to go and see the help me kind of do that next level of analysis. So this is kind of like also happening behind the scenes, and every morning I get like a report on like what's interesting, if there is something interesting. So there are, and there are like other interesting capabilities. We do kind of like have the ability to put the data into dashboards and so on. So again, like it's a very like visual product in many ways. So there's a lot you can do here, and I can just say, hey, I want to share analysis of 2024, create a dashboard and send it to somebody. You can just say that much and it'll just happen, right? So those are like other interesting aspects of the product.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder, so like, I guess like one of the question is like, how do you price such a complex product? And what about like the memory and context layer of this? So for example, each different company have their own like governance documents, and then there is also like different type of access to I'm sure like if you're the CTO or like the CISO or like CIO, they can monitor it very closely. But I guess like for the for I guess like for like a actual employee, if I want to be like, yeah, I'm gonna generate like a graph for my sales team so I can report to the CEO, like those type of like access, and I guess like also the context layer and the memory layer, like how do you kind of like think about
so big scheme of things, our superpower, I don't know how you came up with this question, but this is like super spot on. The main value prop that we are building is essentially harnessing this enterprise-wide context. This is like this, we're actually riffing on like terms for it. We called it a knowledge fabric once. Then we came up with universal context. The current hot name I'm going for is super memory, because ultimately what you need is like this super memory or uber context, which can be used to serve all the people in the organization so that they can rely on this like uber thing. And this uber context is what is built by specialists, or and not just built, I would say trained by specialists, and it keeps improving through usage. So this is kind of a very, very core, IP sort of that we're building, is how to create this enterprise-wide context and continuously enhance it, right? So this is very important. Number two, again, one of the big differences with like a chat GPT and so on is that when you're deploying it in enterprise, who gets to see what is non-negotiable, right? So again, like even if it's finance, well, then usually like 2% of the company is even allowed to know what's happening with finance. Even if you're talking about sales, imagine there is an organization with 1,000 people in the sales department. There is like a whole pyramid of who gets to see what, right? So there is the CRO who gets to see everything, but then if you look at different levels in the hierarchy, each person is getting to see the what their team can see, right? So this is like again, like from a technical details about the product, we absolutely very we take security very seriously. This is like a very important property of the product. We can handle hierarchical, role-based, the ability to federate your identity as you're kind of going into these different systems. So there's just a bunch of like capabilities built in to make sure that there is no leakage of information from one person to another. And again, like all the while, you still want to make sure that there is an uber context that is kind of continuously being built, so that can so that this uber context can benefit all the people who are kind of consuming the product. Because again, the consumption model for us is very much based on usage, and the usage comes either in the form of like number of people using it, alternatively the number of actions that you're taking on it. So we absolutely want more people. This is very much not designed for this 5-person special team to use. It is absolutely designed for like the 1,000 other people in the organization to use. So we need this ability to harness context and then allow lots of people to safely use it.
I wonder, so like how many people are your, I guess, like how do you define your ICP? So you mentioned like, obviously on your website, there's like, D-Scope, or which is like another speaker at our conference. And then there is the Founder Clean, or like the Clean team. Like Founder Clean was also on our past like podcast guests. And like, how do you think about like, I feel like those are like very fast growing, like startup unicorns, but like, for the 1,000 people team, I feel like a lot of it were more towards like enterprise, or Fortune 500, like kind of traditional companies. What's your go-to-market strategy to capture these like two different type of companies, right? Like one is like the scale up, and then one is like kind of like I don't know if you guys have like 7-Eleven as a customer. I'm just saying like a more, I guess, like a traditional business.
Great point. So I think what's a common theme? I mean, the common theme is so again, so there is a way to look at companies that like as a business, what you're doing and so on. But then there is another layer, which is okay, as a data shop. And I view every organization as something that has to deal with data, right? So at that level where the commonalities are. So I think our value prop is where data starts mattering. Now, the question is, when does data start mattering? So if you're like a large organization, data matters, period. If you're a fast growing, even like an e-commerce company that's moving fast, data matters because they're just like extremely data driven. If you have like complex supply chain, it absolutely matters. If your sales are growing as fast as it is for clean, data
Mhm.
matters, right? So it comes down to like, um, like is data critical to your day-to-day decision making or not, which requires a certain velocity or it requires a certain scale. So the places which does not make sense, right? So I would say small, ultra small companies, I actually think, we are, I mean, they can probably use us, but
Mhm.
it's not like a great fit. So in certain sense, there is a certain amount of scale that is required. So, I would describe as like mid-market enterprise and above, like is where our like fit is most, not so much in like really smaller organizations. So like I wish I could just like market to all YC companies and like
Mhm.
make like business. I don't think that's the right GTM for us. um, in terms of like since you're talking about GTM, one of the things that we are like very keen to launch, and this is recognizing the experiential aspect of the product. Like when we talk about our product, a lot of people want to kind of like touch and feel it. It's like, oh wow, this happened. No, I just spoke to it and something happened. That's quite brings a lot of delight. And how do you kind of like make that more accessible to people? So we are in fact like launching like a free trial uh, version of our product. This is something that we're building towards, um, which will just like open it up to a lot of people to at least get a taste for it. But in terms of like where we can earn revenue, I think there is a certain scale required. I would say mid to large enterprises where really the scale lies. Now, the great news for us uh, is that this whole space is very, I would say, we are industry agnostic. So
Mhm.
again, it could be, like Patreon is like one of our, Patreon, that's like a, what would you call it? It's a, it's my very zeitgeisty, a very digital native company. And on the other hand, we have like, oil and gas, and we have like ultra large tech like Cisco. So it's like a full spectrum. The commonality is that data is important here.
For sure. Are they using like so when they're using the product, so I guess like a patron's data and like a Cisco's data, it's probably very different from the format. So like Patron, for people who don't know, it's kind of like um a tipping company for your favorite creators, or it's kind of like creator subscription company.
Correct.
I think maybe they will have like, video or audio, blah, 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 blah. But although the business data is probably living on like Excel or something, but on the other hand, there's like, Cisco that like the data could be like varies, right? Maybe I don't know if it's like, their marketing department or the sales department or like just the whole company uses Wisdom. But how do you think about like the processing different type of data, whether it's like, or like different, yeah. So I guess like
So,
unstructured.
yeah, ultimately, uh, uh, so Patreon actually turns out is one of the more complex organizations. They use Databricks extensively.
Mhm,
Uh, Cisco, we are talking about, I mean, again, using Snowflake and so on. So ultimately, I think even though the businesses are doing very different things,
mhm,
uh, the data has, like data is tables and text and, JSON and like, so at like if you take one level deeper into like the technical side of what it means
mhm,
uh, for data, that there are like lots of commonalities, right? So ultimately it'll get into some sort of like large database, or it's going to remain in some file repository, right? I mean, that's kind of the commonality. So at the tech level, I think there are commonalities. I think where gets very interesting is that the problems that you're solving are very different, right? So in one case, Patreon, we're talking about, growth in creators, right? Or like, Cisco we're deployed within finance departments. It comes down to, like managing payments to suppliers or something. Or with our oil and gas customer, we are talking about manufacturing operations, right? So the business problem that you're solving is different, but at the technology level, there are a lot of commonalities.
mhm,
The key though is that this context that we are building is
mhm,
sort of like a marriage between this low level data and
mhm,
like high level. business context, the concepts, right? So that's kind of where that's why like this, like training, like this Uber context, which is extremely custom for each customer,
Mhm.
is the crux of the problem that we are trying to solve.
Mm.
And this has to be done in the context of each business individually. This is not some like magical Uber context that just like works across all businesses. That just simply cannot work when it comes to analytics.
When it comes to like analytics, I guess like how do you set up your own company? So like, how many people are working on like the product itself, and then how many people are working on like selling it, and then obviously you guys already landed all these like big logos like Cisco or all these great companies on your website. Like, how do you think about, um, I guess like both building out the product but also like running the sales team as a CEO? Like, how do you kind of spend your own time every day?
Yeah. So yeah, my own time. Yeah, it's not a little overhead. It's like already it's very chopped up. Well, today started really well with this live
Thank
stream.
you.
Uh,
Thank you.
yeah. So as a company, we're so I would say the first until like middle of the year,
Mhm.
it was like entirely like founder led. Myself and my other co-founder couple, two of us kind of focused a lot on GTM, and then the rest of the organization was essentially engineering. So we started kind of building up the GTM team from middle of, I mean, like around June. So at this point, we have like about uh, it's an 8-member overall GTM organization. It includes sales, marketing,
Mhm.
uh,
I
folks.
think I think your close is also your sound device again. Sorry. Like I think I can there's like a sorry about that.
Sorry
Yeah.
about that. No worries. Yeah, so I was saying that it was largely just engineering, and I'll count myself as overhead until middle of the year. But since then, we have kind of like been scaling up our GTM team as well, and that's kind of reached about 8 or 9 people right now.
Mhm.
And engineering is little over 20. So the whole company is like 30 to 35. Actually, there are like, I don't know the exact start joining dates. So I'm a little bit off on the exact numbers, but that's the range we are in.
Um, that's actually very fast, like growing since like you guys are in so like in fairly like early stage. Like I guess like since in the past like your role was more of like I guess on the chief architect. But although you're also the co-founder, but like I guess like what or something that kind of like surprised you because and then your previous company that sold to Facebook was like the CTO. Oh my god, sorry.
Mhm.
How do you think about, I guess, like transitioning yourself into the CEO role?
Mm.
And like, what were some things that you feel like you've learned from those experiences in past?
Mm. Yeah, I hope my team isn't seeing this. They will like laugh at me. So, like as an engineer, you think about, hey, somebody is using my product. This is wonderful. I'm so happy. They're giving me some feedback. That is great. But as a sales guy, I'm like, well, I don't care whether I care you're using the product, but I want you to pay money.
Yeah.
So there is a difference between like people saying they're excited about your product or like trying it out
Mhm.
and giving you money for it. And this took me a little bit of time to kind of grok that difference. So that was like one big thing that like it's like making people pay for your product is uh, very different than making them feel excited about your product or giving it a spin. So we have, I think, over time, I have gotten better at it, but more importantly, now we have folks within the team who are more specialized sellers who kind of can take us towards revenue quicker than I am personally capable of. So that was like one big difference for me. Um, Again, like I would say, I know that my previous CEO Bipul, he used to like obsess about messaging. Like
Mhm.
this is like in a very precise form what the company does,
Mhm.
and I used to kind of never really pay much attention to it.
Mhm.
Uh, and I realized later on like what a critical role that exact positioning makes in the big scheme of things about the success of any venture, because like you need like a um, people need to immediately get what is it that you do and how it is going to connect to what they're looking for. And if you cannot do that in a very effective manner, like even a very great technology doesn't quite go anywhere. So I think for me, like it's been a lot of like insane amounts of learning about
Mhm.
how to position your product and like what does it mean to make people pay money. So that's
Mhm.
those are like in my own personal growth areas, having spent most of my time as a builder in the past life.
Speaking of paying money, how do you price a product in the AI era?
So I think the okay, so there is this aspirational thing that everybody always wants to do, which is like value-based pricing.
Yeah.
Um, the the challenge is, again, it's easier said than done. Like ultimately, uh, it's not enough to just say value-based pricing. You need to be able to show attribution. You need to be able to clearly quantify what value you're delivering.
Mhm.
So this is like a journey for us. We are definitely trying to get to that point, and I feel a year from now I'll give you a different answer around like how we price it. But today there is there is a very more basic usage centric model that we do, which either is uh, you know based on number of users using it, alternatively based on number of discrete actions that you're making.
Mhm.
um, we are like trying out like a more value based model in a few cases where the exact business case that we are solving with analytics is more clearly established. So that's an area of like active work for us, but
Mhm.
currently it's very much user and usage based.
Mhm. I was wondering in terms of, I guess like uh one thing I wrote down was like attribution, right? So like how do you make sure, like how do you even create these attribution yourself? Like so, when you're selling to like a complex team, so like it could be like marketing and sales all together, for example, for marketing, maybe you run like a billboards ads and then you run these like, you know, other ads in like different category of things. Like how do you attribute the revenue to the marketing, the sales, or like all these kind of different things, or how
Mm.
do you even track attribution from like the AI tool? So like obviously the AI probably help you generate like a better graph, but how do you say that's like I'm sure it's like a lot faster than I go on Excel or I go on like these like 40 different like data tooling to see the
Yeah,
result, but how do
yeah,
you that's
very
like get better?
um, not not easy. I think there are a few ways to do it. It's like, okay, what's the alternative? How do you do it? If you had to answer uh, you know this level of complexity questions and this volume, how would you do it any other way? The answer would, so you could easily translate it into saying that you're talking about these many person years of work needed to kind of do this work, and hence you should kind of pay all of that money. I think that's a way. I think the devil's advocate argument on that would be that, well, I'm then it sounds like I should not ask too many questions, because like I'm like creating more work. Maybe I was fine already. Why bother? So I think it's better to try to tie yourself to some clear, tangible business outcome. Um, and so and there are business processes that we can easily tie into, right? So for example, there's a business review that is going on, or like there is a CFO has to close the quarter, or like CFO has to go into an earnings call. CRO has to run their like weekly business operations. If you can tie into some of these operations that are, very data heavy operations that every business needs to run to, that's a way to tie in towards some like very, very tangible, piece of value.
Mhm.
These are like some thoughts that we have. But again, like, this is like it's not like a, this is not like, a customer success agent, right? Customer success agents are great. It's like you get tickets, but you anyway need to handle those tickets. It's very easy to do, quantify, the number of tickets that you have deflected. You should just get paid for it.
Mhm.
In the case of analytics, it's a little bit different.
Mhm.
And especially when you're trying to create like a category of, like, you have much more consumption than
Mhm.
you would have done otherwise, right? So it's a little bit, becomes a little trickier. So I think it comes down to tying yourself to some business process or like some clear workflows that you need to do to run your business, and essentially tie your revenue to those workflows.
Mm. I wonder, like, I guess, like, how do you think about like the fundraising milestones? Obviously, you guys have raised from like some of the best investors, and to achieving, I guess, like the different set of benchmarks from C to A to B to eventually IPO. Like, what are some lessons that you feel like you've learned from like the past experience to kind of set up your own like milestone for each? Um,
Um, I think, I mean, like, we live in like a very peculiar like funding climate
mhm,
and very peculiar stage in the technology cycle. I would say right now there is an AI land grab that is going on, right?
mhm,
And I think there is a, you know, and invest. I mean, it's a little bit frothy on the investor side as well.
mhm,
But what we have, based on the money that we have raised, and based on the, some of the proof points that we have with our customers,
mhm,
I mean, the market is just absolutely ripe for like disruption right now. I would say a year back, people, when I say people, I mean customers, had a little bit of hesitation, like, oh, this AI thing, how good can it be? Should I really invest in it or now? I think this year there is no excuse. It's almost like, are you under a rock if you're not like thinking about major changes in your organization? There is
mhm,
something wrong with you, right? So I think customers are essentially very well primed
mhm,
to make a leap, and we just need to kind of scale like crazy. That's really what the mandate is for us, right? I mean, and I would love to go 10x next year if we can, and I just feel that the market has the appetite for solutions like us. So again, like, not thinking about like ABCD milestone, I'm simply thinking about how do we just like crazily grow our business.
mhm. What's your roadmap to like crazy leap to your business?
So I mean, a few things. Again, moving away from founder-led selling
Mhm,
is one of those leap moments. So very, very aggressively looking to grow on the GTM side.
mhm,
Um, on the product side, there are like some very specific unlocks. I mean, I talked about the free trial motion.
mhm,
So that's, I think, going to play a big role.
mhm,
Um, in terms of like enterprise data sources, there are like a few very specific pointed pieces that we need to get right. I think that will kind of like open up a lot of like, large enterprise opportunities for us. Um, you know, I think on the marketing side, I would say largely we have remained under the radar. Uh, I mean, big scheme of things, I think we could, in terms of like putting our word out there, I think there is an opportunity to just 10x what we are doing today. So I mean, it's like really honestly just
mhm.
scaling in on all cylinders is what we need to do.
Mm, love that. Well, Soham, like, I want to wrap with a 1 minute fire round for you. What's your favorite book?
What's my
Favorite book?
wow favorite book? Okay, this is a hard one. I'll say a few books I've liked. Again, I used to read books long time back. There's a book by this guy called Richard Bach, Jonathan Livingstone Seagull. I don't know
Mhm.
if you've heard of it. That's a very, very powerful book. It's like very aspirational. That's one book that I found great.
Wait, what is it called?
It's I hope I'm getting the right name right. Yeah, it's called Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
Oh, that's a book's name. I thought that was the author's name.
Yeah, I know, I know. It's the name of a seagull.
Oh my God. What? What is it about?
It's this like so seagull is like a seagulls, right? It's
Yeah, like a bird.
the bird that nobody likes. It's like this it's this you just want it to be shooed away.
Oh
Uh,
God.
but Jonathan Livingston, the seagull, wants to soar like an eagle. Uh,
Oh,
that's the story. Like how like this dude who nobody likes, but he really wants to step up. Uh,
okay.
I
Uh,
thought that's a book that has stayed with me for a while.
wow. Okay, I'll totally check that out. Who made the biggest impact in your career?
um, Career, I think I would say again early on, a lot of credit to my mom. I think growing up, she was like a massive influence on me. But I would say Bipul Sinha, my CEO at WisdomAI, at Rubrik, he, I think definitely on the entrepreneurship side, just learned a ridiculous amount of stuff from him. So those, I mean, from a career perspective, I would like give him a lot of credit.
Love that. Who would you invite to your dinner party?
Dinner party. Yeah, Grace, you're very welcome to join a dinner party. Uh, I don't know, Bill Gates.
Ah, actually, unique answer. I love that. I think like nowadays, like, a lot of people just say Elon Musk because he is like always in the news. But I feel like Bill Gates would be such a great guest because he also like accomplished like so much. And then he stayed, I feel like fairly low key in the press.
Yeah, I think like for me, like I like from a like vibing perspective, I'll have a much easier time with you with
Yeah,
than with
for
Elon.
sure. For sure. Where can we find you outside of work?
Uh, I mean, there is. I think again, like I have two young kids. Family is like a big part of my life. I think outside of work, that is probably quite all-consuming.
Love
Uh,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, so thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was such a master class for everything. Um, Analytics and I guess like a new way of like describing like your business outcome basically.
Cool, awesome. It was amazing chatting with you, Chris. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Let me quickly